That's okay. All right. Okay, so that's who we're focusing on. So who has these housing needs that we want to be addressing? And that's kind of the question that we want you to keep in mind when we start talking about affordable housing and what it looks like. Um,
So
okay.
are there people that have come to you that have talked about some of the housing needs in Millbrae, like overcrowding? Is that an issue? Are people being pushed
I'm
out, having
sure
more?
it's an issue. I'm sure it's an issue. It's just not, it's just something that people hasn't come, it hasn't surfaced. I mean, I can tell you people here, I can tell you this household, you know, there's people, adults living here who should be we should be empty nesters, put it that way. And I gotta tell you, all of my children's friends that are their same age cannot get out of their parents' homes. So they're all still here, all throughout the neighborhood.
That is
And that's
definitely.
and that's just one, and that's, we're talking people who are used to be middle income people, you know, purchased their houses back in the day, good prices, all that. Now we're no longer middle income. We're not even lower middle income. We're now low income.
Yeah.
Even if we have a great Silicon Valley job, you know, 70, $80,000 a year, it's this community is has put us into the low income, and we have to support all these kids who belong here.
Again, anecdotal data, but I know from my children's school that they have great difficulties attracting teachers because they can't afford housing with teacher salaries. It's a private school, so they pay relatively good salaries, but they're still not enough, and they're having enormous difficulties replacing the teachers who leave.
Yeah, and we've heard from the hospitals as well that they consider themselves the great teaching hospitals because nurses and cardiologists come there for a year or two and then they want to leave because as soon as they get enough experience to go to someplace else, they'll go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, at the grocery store clerks, I don't know. When I first started working on housing in San Mateo, I would start talking to people that the grocery stores and other places about their housing situations, and it is devastating the stories that you hear that the choices that people have to make in order to take the jobs in San Mateo County. All right, so sorry, Angela, to derail you right when you started, but
No, that was perfect. Okay, so this is what most people think affordable housing is. So here we have, 3-bedroom house for 925, 2-bedroom 789. And we're just here to talk about what affordable housing can actually look like, how many people it can serve. And Evie, I see you wanting to say something.
yeah. So these are examples from the Midwest,
Yeah.
recent examples, like right, like if you lived in Ohio, this seems reasonable. And I think there's a lot an expectation that what we want is to make the houses that we have here more reasonable, and that's a little different than what we're talking about.
So this is what we mean when we talk about affordable housing. So we're talking about housing that's subsidized and it's also available to people who qualify based on their income. So what we were talking about and what we've all been saying is the lower and extremely low income people who just can't make it in this area, who are living, 10 people in a room. Those are the people that we're thinking of when we're thinking about affordable housing. Housing that is deed restricted, which means that it has to be occupied and used by people who are low income. And it usually includes services. So we're talking about communities that also offer services for the community to thrive. So maybe people with disabilities, people who have children, and so they need childcare during the day while they go to work, things like this that help them foster a community, and only one person per room. So no overcrowding, no more 10 people in a room. And then game time. So we have a quick little game. So I'm going to show you some pictures and then you're going to tell us if you believe that this is an example of affordable housing or market rate housing. Okay, so I'll give you like a few seconds to look at the slide and then just in your head, let us or think about whether you think it is market rate or affordable housing. Okay, do we think this is market rate or affordable housing?
Affordable.
Affordable housing.
Affordable.
This is actually public housing. That's a trick question.
It looks like public housing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this is Cabrini Green, but public housing is not legal in the state of California, so we do not have public housing.
This looks like Harlem.
All right, this one. Do we think this is affordable or market rate?
Market.
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 Why are we thinking market?
Nicer.
Just got this trend.
New.
House
It looks
outside,
new.
patio.
Yeah.
Doesn't look
together.
terrible. It doesn't look terrible.
It looked maintained.
This is affordable housing. This is Mid-Penn housing development, and it is in, I believe, South City.
Nice.
Wow.
Is it for senior people or for?
If it's the one in South City that I'm thinking of, it is for seniors. And there's a lot of gardening patches around. The seniors are, oh my God, they grow the best vegetables. If you get there at the right time, you might score.
Okay. Affordable or market rate?
Market rate.
Market rate.
Combo.
Market.
I'm gonna say
This is
market.
this is also affordable housing.
It's in San Francisco, I
San
think.
Francisco.
Yeah.
Where else?
Oh, is
Oh.
this on the Bayview?
Folsom.
Oh,
It's
Folsom.
Street.
I've seen it before.
Folsom and Ford. Oh, okay.
And okay, maybe I'm just asking a question too early, but these affordable housing that you showed us, who foots the bill for those? Is it it's not the federal, is it the county, is it the state, is it the local authorities, a combination?
A combination of all. So I'd be happy to go into the funding, but basically most federal funding comes in the form of either Section 8 vouchers
Mhm.
or financing, cheaper financing. So all banks are required to reinvest the Community Reinvestment Act. All banks are required to reinvest in low-income communities that they benefit from financially, and they usually do that through tax credits, which is a cheap financing for affordable housing. It's one of the primary ways that they use that money. So it's financing, federal financing, and then some subsidies from the federal government, some state funding, including state bonds, and then local funding is what's really critical. Without local funding, you're never going to get anything off the ground anywhere in the Bay Area. The land's just too expensive. It's just not possible.
And local is the city or is it the county?
Both.
Both. Okay.
So in San Mateo County, we have Measure K funds, and the county spends some sales tax money every year, about $30 million a year on affordable housing funding. And most cities have a dedicated funding source. Interestingly, the city of Millbrae participated in a countywide study to tax all new developments, including market rate housing and market rate office, for a funding source for affordable housing. They had the Nexus study paid for them, which was a few $100,000, and they had a staff report written for them, and they never brought it up.
When was this, please, Evie? When did that happen?
That happened in 2015, 16, 17 was the window that was available.
What do you mean they didn't bring it up?
They never agendized it.
Is this report available to anyone to look at?
Yeah, I can share. Let me share the San Mateo County's Nexus study.
We are taxing the new developers for that. It's not part of
Keep
the.
going with the quiz. We can keep going. We can keep going.
Okay. Affordable housing or market?
Market.
I want to say
I put
market.
my
I'm sure
hand
you're
on
gonna say
the-
affordable housing.
It's probably going to be affordable.
It's gonna be affordable.
Oh, they figured us out already.
I figured
Oh
it
my
out.
God.
It is affordable housing. This is another example. Evie, do you know where this one is?
I think this is in East Palo Alto. And I think this is EPA Can Do in partnership with Mid-Penn. And I think it's called Mosaic, and it's decorated all with art from the local neighborhood, from artists in the neighborhood. It's really cool on the inside. It's really cool on the inside.
Well, I'm glad these don't look terrible because the first one was terrible.
Public housing.
Public housing, right?
Public housing. Here's another example of affordable or market.
Affordable.
Affordable.
This is
Affordable
in
So
Menlo Park.
nice.
So nice.
Menlo Park.
Yeah. This is
So
in Menlo
can
Park.
you help me understand the definition? Affordable, are we at 70% of median income, or what's the definition of affordable? Sorry.
30, no?
30.
It's 60% or below.
Oh, so I thought, okay, not
Generally,
60.
in order to get tax credits, it's at 60% affordable or below. So anything that would be built by a nonprofit developer or affordable housing developer would be 60% or below.
Got it.
I'm
That's
sorry,
really helpful.
60% of what? Of income?
Of median, okay, so the area median income. So this is a bizarre concept, and it doesn't make any sense, and it is a terrible way to do, but that's the system we're dealing with. So area median income, it is the average income of everyone that lives in the county of San Mateo, the county of San Francisco, and the county of Marin.
Ooh.
Guess what the median income is for the county of, for our area?
I qualify.
Just looked it up.
Is it the household income?
Yes. So it is.
One
Your
fifty.
median income is based on number of people in your household and the amount of money that every wage earner makes. So if you have, if we had coal mines and you could put the kids in the coal mine, their income would count towards your family of 4 income.
Is
Luckily,
it
we
about
don't do that.
120K?
It's 174,000 for a family of 4.
174? 144.
174.
174. Okay.
You're considered low income at 60% of that, which is like, in most parts of the country, you'd be well off.
So anyone making 100 or 104 and below would qualify. I mean, any household.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here's another one.
Nice.
Looks great. Probably affordable.
It is affordable.
Wow. Where's that?
This is in Orinda. This is after I got really pissed off at the NIMBYs and we pushed back and the council worked with me and we got an affordable housing development.
Ooh, wow.
It's
Wow.
seniors, it's
Hey.
student housing, it's at the old library site. It's downtown, it's walkable, and it's gorgeous.
Unrelated question. Do you guys connect with YIMBYs?
We do. We even hire them sometimes.
I mean, YIMBY meaning like the official, I feel like I'm a YIMBY because I'm not a NIMBY, but like the official YIMBY group.
Yeah, we talk to them, we coordinate with them, they're primarily focused on market rate housing, but what most market rate housing developers need, affordable housing developers, there's more commonality between market rate developers and affordable housing developers than one might think.
Yeah, that's my take too, is that they're more interested in market rate and building up as much of that.
But if a city doesn't process applications, for example, for market rate housing, they're not going to process applications for affordable housing. And the challenges we saw recently with the first affordable housing development that was going to be built in Millbrae, that's under construction now. It's being built by Core Properties. It's a veterans, low income, low and very low. They will take Section 8s. They will take VASH vouchers. They will take. Some veterans will not have income, but that project, the staff and council were really. It was very controversial on the council because people didn't want there to be a property that didn't generate income. And even though it would be the first affordable housing development in the city, the first new construction, there was very heated debate about it. And having those kids go to the schools and having those kids, it was pretty ugly. All right, let Angela keep going. I am terrible. This is exactly why
And this one, I think this might be the last one.
Market
Market
rate.
rate. Market rate.
affordable housing. It's
Affordable
TNDC.
housing.
It's the Tenderloin Neighborhood Development Corporation.
Oh,
Or it might be Chinatown CDC. No, I think but it's one of the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's right off of Market.
Housing
Really?
uh,
Okay.
levy.
Yeah, so deeply affordable homes. And most, oh yeah, go ahead. And one of the things that, yeah, in most affordable housing, it comes with amenities. So affordable housing isn't just a home. There's for if it's family housing, there will be an after-school program and a computer lab. There will be a playground. There will be gardens if it's for seniors or for families. There will be at a lot of senior places, they'll have people that come by and check, do eye exams and a podiatrist, and they try to enrich the environment and try to create a community. It's like a vertical neighborhood. So that's the whole concept of affordable housing, is creating community.
So how is this paid for? Are you getting to that somewhere in the presentation?
So yeah, I don't know if we talk about all of the different funding measures, but I can talk about the specific funding for some of these projects if you want.
Well, I was thinking more at this level, right?
Yeah.
Because,
The most important
go
thing
ahead,
is,
please.
yeah, the most important thing is that Millbrae needs to generate some local revenue. And to do that, they need to either pass an inclusionary housing, there's a lot of different funding sources. I just had the city of East Palo Alto send me their list of funding sources that they've passed, and I can put it right here. I'll put it in the chat. And I hope, yeah. So there's a lot of different funding sources. The most common that cities have are jobs housing linkage fees, so fees on all new commercial and development, and inclusionary policies, a requirement that all new market rate include either funding or new affordable housing units. Redwood City has been leveraging their funded fee on offices to require the development of affordable housing, and we've seen about 7 new affordable housing developments going through the pipeline based on that program. It's been incredibly successful.
So just jumping back into this, so our lack of affordable housing is a completely predictable result of policy failure. So it is completely avoidable for there to not be enough housing. And that's what we're working on right now, is trying to work with local communities to get the right policies in place so we can build affordable housing, like the examples that you just saw. So that's kind of a question that we'd like to bring to our partners, is what kind of policies would protect, preserve, and produce affordable housing. These are just a few examples. We're at the very beginning process of what's called the housing element. And so that's one of the things that we'll be working on after the needs assessment, is trying to figure out which policies we're going to focus on and push on to further affordable housing and actually build affordable housing in San Mateo County. So these are just some of the examples. Renter protections that requires landlords to pay tenants if housing isn't available and if it's not their residents' faults. New funding, like Evie's been talking about, for affordable homes, sites, so finding places where we can actually build the affordable housing, not just zoning and then not building it. And then finally having housing in places that have been historically exclusionary. And so places that are having things like
a stupid question, is affordable housing usually or only new housing, or is there a conversion of existing housing into affordable housing?
Both can happen. The challenge with converting existing housing is you have to make sure that the current tenants income qualify. Otherwise, you're displacing people to house people. So it's kind of, it's less than ideal. So it's a little bit more challenging because our real estate prices are really high here, and it works really well in places that have very strict rent control and renter protections, because the properties are not as they don't have as much speculative value. Um, in San Mateo, it can work. It works well in East Palo Alto, but it can be really challenging to do well because often it leads to displacement instead of, and sometimes it can, it can even go the other way where people that made less than the new affordable housing, yeah, which is absolutely terrible. I think it's most common, most affordable housing gets repurposed as more affordable housing. So I think that's the most common examples of the sort of refurbish that we've seen in San Mateo County. And I know that's true of many places in the country, that affordable housing gets built on former affordable housing development sites. So you'll take an old building that was built in the 70s, you'll make it nice, make sure everybody can come back and add some units and maybe add gardens and make it more modern. Any other questions on that? That kind of I was thinking about the first policy because Nathan was reminding me of that story of the apartment building that burned down. Nathan, am I remembering this correctly?
Yeah,
No,
that's right. Last April, there was a apartment building on Terrace that burned, and every tenant in that building was displaced. It seemed like there was some evidence that the landlord hadn't been keeping it up. The Daily Journal had an article where the tenants were depending on the generosity of the Red Cross and crowdfunding campaigns to be able to stay housed in a hotel. Just a and this was like early COVID too, so it was already, with the economic disruption and people not moving around anywhere is just another thing. So
a lot of the families had to move out of the area after that fire, and a lot of and you're absolutely right, Nathan. A lot of the families in the schools, we provided some of those families with anything that we could, just gift cards and food items and some clothes because they didn't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah. So in some cities, they have, like the city of San Mateo has a policy that if somebody loses their housing and it's not their fault, and you don't have to show gross negligence on behalf of the landlord, but the landlord has to pay the tenants, sometimes substantially, so thousands of dollars. And this helps. It doesn't help keep them in the community often, but it can help prevent them from being homeless. It can help prevent homelessness. In East Palo Alto, they go a step further, and I will often talk about East Palo Alto as the gold standard because East Palo Alto does a lot about equity and really does put their money where their mouth is. So East Palo Alto requires first right of refusal for a resident. So if an apartment building burns down, not only does that landlord have to pay their tenants, but during the time when they can't live there, they have to offer them rents at the same rent when that new place is built, which is not very common.
I'll just add that East Palo Alto gets a lot of attention from corporations. It seems like every kind of amenity or extra service that's available happens in, I can't remember the name of the school district, maybe Ravenswood or something like that, but it always seems to be the place that needs it most, but it's only one place, and that's East Palo Alto that I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravenswood School District is one of the worst in the state. I think it is the worst in the state.
Yeah, and I hear so much about what they get in terms of corporate
support.
Help. Support, yes. Could be people support, could be money support, could be program support.
Government redlining created a disaster there for the people of color.
Well, it all goes back to the founding of East Palo Alto and how it started out. So, I mean, it was set up that way.
Yeah. So Evie and Angela and Nathan, I'm not sure how much more time we have of yours tonight, but the goal, what we were hoping to maybe get some accomplishment. And the fact that you're doing this at county level is fantastic. What we're able to maybe help affect change in Millbrae, we'd love to get some guidance and insight from you, because we're hearing from the mayor and city council that, hey, we'd have to be a bigger city to get the kind of funding to make this work, at least 50,000 or higher. We're at 23,000. So we're being told as citizens or residents, yeah, Millbrae's not big enough to qualify for those kinds of funding. Nathan seemed to think, don't buy it. There are options. And I know people that have the answers. So I hate to just cut to that, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time.
So, yeah, and just in context, I mean, we would like to get some tools into our toolbox, because we're planning a meeting with the mayor in which we would like to be able to come up with, so that's why we want some ammunition to be able to come up with convincing arguments to help her, help mobilize her into moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think you can move the mayor. Yeah, I will absolutely give you some very specific points, and I would even be willing to go to the meeting with you if you wanted, with the mayor. She just sent me a note today saying, my city staff is saying that because we're not, we're not big enough. She sent the same thing to me. We're not big enough, so therefore we can't get any funding. So East Palo Alto is 28,000 people. It is not 50,000 people. And they have money, and they are building affordable housing. So that is not the reason. It's true that Millbrae is not an entitlement jurisdiction, and I need to look into that more, but which means that they don't get a direct subsidy from the federal government, so they do not get direct federal housing dollars. So I need to look into that more and see how they can qualify for that. But yes, it is possible, and there are funding sources that they have left on the table, including inclusionary zoning and a jobs housing linkage fee, which they can enact in the next.
Tell us what is an inclusionary?
I can give you a whole report about inclusionary housing, but the idea is that the city will pass a policy, and they will say, from now on, every market rate development that comes through has to have a certain percentage of the homes available at below market rates. And then they will define what below market rate is, and for how long those have to be affordable. And basically the key is to get deep affordability. In our area, what we really, 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 really need, I'll tell you what I want. What I really, really want is deeply affordable homes, extremely low income, very low income, because that's the hardest to get. And and there are communities that are able to leverage their inclusionary zoning to do that, including Redwood City, including San Mateo. So it's not like it's a foreign concept that they haven't heard of. Their staff go to meetings every month and they hear about how to do it. It is not rocket science, and we can help you break those walls, because I believe that there is the will on the council to break through that.
Great.
So what we're hearing is that when they try to apply some of these rules, now the developer is suing the city of Millbrae for $18 million of fees that they say are being illegally assessed to them to fund those points you just made. So again, being a layperson, I think we have one lawyer on the call, that's Katie, but just as, somebody that fights with trolls for a living, I don't know how to go present that and say, okay, well, yeah, you're trying to put these in place to kind of subsidize these things, but now the city's being sued for doing that. So yeah, we need some ammunition.
Yeah, so yeah, you can't go back after somebody's filed an application and change the rules. There's there's a process, and it's laid out. The city has some flexibility, but they can't say, oh, now that you submitted an application, we realize how much we've been leaving on the table, so we're going to change all the rules. So yeah, you have to have even, you need to be more like a train than a wheeler dealer.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah. What?
No, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's challenging with small cities because they don't often have a lot of staff or very sophisticated staff, but there's a lot of work that can be done. We have a lot of support for staff, so if they're willing to do it and they have the support of the city manager, which I'm not sure that you do, they can get they can get anything done that they want. You literally have like a separate planning staff that's willing to draft anything dealing with housing.
Yeah. I think we may have the city manager as an ally. We need to double check there, but you're saying that he can influence things, so that's great to know.
Yeah. So, and you have a lot of leverage coming up with the housing element, and I'm happy to have more conversations with you and go into it. Just make sure when they start having public meetings that you get in there and talk about the need and make it as specific as possible, and find community groups that can be very specific, because you can't require them to come up with a program to solve something that they haven't identified as a need. So that's the next step.
Strategically then, how important would you rate us trying to get in our view, a well-qualified member on the planning commission? How much difference could that make? I believe it's a 5-member panel. Can that really affect and influence those kinds of decisions being made to get, an ally in the city manager if the planning commission's on board, or we get one more vote there that we might not have had before? Is that worth us spending cycles on trying to accomplish?
Leadership matters, right? I mean, it's not guaranteed, and it doesn't take the place of community activism, but who makes decisions will change those decisions. So yeah, I would absolutely pay attention to that, especially somebody who cares about race, and especially somebody that, that has a broader view than their home value.
I think one thing that I would say too, and I certainly hear Michael and Oded, your concerns about having to respond to the concerns about funding, but there's multiple groups who are working on this housing issue and housing as an anti-racism lever besides ARC, and so we need to work on our comparative advantage, right? Where I think ARC lends a lot to this process is, framing the need for building affordable housing as an anti-racist policy, the importance of elevating it as something that should be a priority for the city council, rather than sort of like something, rather than a secondary priority, or that I don't think it's an afterthought in Millbrae, but something lower on the totem pole of priorities than the other things that city councilors think about on a daily basis. And this is definitely one of the reasons why I invited Evie and Angela here, is that they are much more well versed in this issue. So we can always say like, oh, if funding's the issue, like we know people who know about that, and we can put you in touch with them if that's the sticking point, right? But I think one of the issues is like, it's sort of like where there's a will, there's a way, right? If someone wants something to happen, they'll figure out how to do it. If they don't want to do it, I'm not saying the city of Millbrae doesn't want to build affordable housing, but it is a strategy that like, you solve one problem and then it's sort of another problem springs up. And I know the funding issue is very hard, but in the report that I shared, was an HLC report that was put out in 2018, sort of documenting a bunch of the policies that cities in San Mateo County have adopted to move affordable housing along. And I brought this up at the RENA meeting about a month ago. If you look at the row for Millbrae, it's on page 16 of that PDF, table 5, it's blank. There's no inclusionary housing ordinance. There's no linkage fee like Evie was saying. There's no residential impact fee. Granted, this was in 2018. I don't remember if they added residential impact fee for affordable housing into Evie's shaking her head, so I'm guessing the answer is no. But other cities there's low-hanging fruit on the table. And the city, Darcy Smith, the community development director, has said, hey, we'll be bringing these policies forward. I would love it if our group could sit down with community development director Smith and say, hey, like, can we contribute to this conversation before it gets proposed for the city council? We are interested. This is important. We would like to know the details and work with you on them, right? Like, I don't know when it's going to come forward. But we need to hold her accountable for saying that something like this would be coming forward. And yeah, I mean, the planning commission is definitely important, but definitely in the next year or two, that housing element process that Evie brought up is very, very important. And I think so. Those are the sort of organization opportunities that I think ARC could get involved in.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Nathan.
And please let us know if you need any funding or other resources or support to work on this issue. We are talking to funders a lot, and are happy to make a pitch if that helps you.
Great. Nathan, maybe you and I can follow up offline with whatever research, what other research you did about, what one needs to qualify to be on the planning commission other than being an elector. I became naturalized 3 years ago, so I just got to vote in my first presidential election, and that was great. And I saw that the mayor had an idea of somebody who's actually in the industry, but at the last minute he backed out and had other commitments. But maybe you and I could speak about that, and we could figure out who we might be able to put forward there.
I know you have another meeting, so I really appreciate being invited and meeting all of you. Someday we'll meet in person again. Remember that?
That day is not that far.
Not that far. Summertime.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
And when we meet with the mayor, it would be helpful to have you come in, and I think we need to regroup and figure out how we move forward on this with city council and what the best intersection points are.
Yeah, I might even be able to get somebody who specializes in, we have a couple people that specialize in affordable housing finance to be in that conversation with her. So to really provide, oh, Kitty, the best, sorry, animal crazy,
Okay.
the best information, right? And really give her the resources she needs to, because I feel like it's going to be hard to get things rolling. And I just want to give you guys all the resources you need to really get it, to push that rock up the hill.
So nice to meet the three of you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Folks.
Bye-bye.